Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to Nature Folklore Sessions. It's 23rd of May, 2021. Well, thank you for joining me again for our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting this to within your favorite sanctuary space and expressing inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performing, and even problem solving. Now, this afternoon, it's back to folklore, water folklore. We've certainly got plenty of water outside, hence why I'm inside yet again. I'll get out to that willow cairn and doing an outside broadcast sometime this year, I think, maybe next week anyway. But today we're going to be exploring the mythology and visions from wells, pools, lochs, rivers, and sea. And guess we got coming on, B's actually in the backstage here. We got B Smith coming on. And we've got Claire Roach. She's going to be doing a watery song. Gary Brannigan, who you may be well and truly familiar with the ancient wells of Ireland. Sarah Humble, who's been on a couple of times. She's sort of on and off backstage. So she'll give us the latest update with All Is Well. And we've also got a wonderful Shannon Michaela Dory Smith, who is involved with quite a few things with water. I'll explain that a bit later on. Fascinating woman. But these, as I say, as I start off these nature folklore sessions and the Karen Crawley Labyrinth Gardens, they're all helped along by your subscriptions, which I'm very grateful for, because without them, I might not be here because I pay subscriptions for putting this on. So thank you all for your continued support. And I hope you're getting great value for what you're doing. So I think, let's see, there's a few people who've joined on board. I'll just have a quick hello to who we've got. Tina Rock's here anyway. Hello, listening at home. Great guest today. Yes, they are going to be absolutely fantastic guests today. And there's going to be fantastic people listening later on and watching. Quite excited. Must admit, I'm very excited about today's edition with what we got. And it will be kind of extended because there is the guests are wonderful. There's a lot of content. And of course, water folklore is very much the core of today. But water itself, it's lovely. It soothes us, doesn't it? And let's get on to some photos here. Some soothing water photos. There we go. And okay, we got Sarah Humble's got on nicely in the backstage. Anyway, as I say, water soothes us. And I find that the bright water pools are holy wells. They're really enchanting. And I'm sure you watching here today will agree with that. But do you find that when you visit, the same as I do, they kind of draw you in? There's something about them that draws you in. And sometimes the water's very clear and we can see visions in that water. Sometimes the water's bubbling away, bubbling up from below. And that can really charge our imagination into instant stories. And sometimes these sacred wells, they can be a bit sluggish, of course. Sarah's going to be talking about this, but what you have there when they go sluggish is all that other life that's joined in. And sometimes we got ferns, there's water plants there, algae, trees. Look at the trees around that one. So all of that is worthy too. Fascinating, and it all fills us with endless wonder. And we can feel the blessings, feel safe, and feel sanctuary. A lot of people do find peace and sanctuary around a well and feeling safe. And I've been tranced with holy wells since I was about 6 years old. And through my younger years, I heard that once upon a time, hazel trees were the most common trees by the sacred wells. And now I'm going, equipment's going sluggish. Excuse me for a moment. So much for transitions. There we go. I think that's hazel anyway. They were common. And those of you familiar with me and these nature folklore sessions will pick up that I'm at the moment already moving into a transition from water to hazels a bit. Now, I told this story last year, but I love this story that I first picked up from Scotland. And then a Donegal man named Charlie McGee, he gave me a version. And I even got another version from an Aborigine man in Australia. But I'm not going to go into his one. But you may have heard of me telling the story of the goddess, the kayak, in a boat, and how with the help of otters in the sea, built the land, this land that we have on Earth. Now, the story I'm going to jump with you sort of related to that, but this is a goddess that came out of the sea onto the shore. And she was in the form of a hazel tree with huge trunks and strong roots. And there's a sort of, I like that photograph of, I don't know, it looks more like a beach goddess, doesn't it? That's the best I could do for hazel goddess. And each of those trunks were full of serpents. I haven't got that, but I'm going to have to bring up a tarot card for you. Something like that. That's the best I can do for that. And she climbed up hills and mountains to find what we call swallow holes today. And she stretched over these swallow holes and she peed down them. And she had plenty of water with her and within her after coming out of the sea. And the serpents, transition time, and the serpents would also drop down these swallow holes, or they traveled underground and came up to the surface through what we call holy wells today. Now, these serpents then swam their wriggling way and formed channels. And I'm not good on the transitions today. I must apologize. They formed the channels. And that's how rivers, it said, were created through the land. And this is the best art I could get. No, it's the wrong art. There's a serpent who made a river anyway. And how the water rose from rivers to form mist and then down as rain. And the rain would go down those swallow holes again, and the cycle repeats itself. Now, there's another more dramatic version of this, and I'm going to tell you a brief version of that shortly. I'm keeping my own stories really brief today. But first, we've got our first guest. We've got B. Smith. She's patiently waiting in the background there. And she says she's got a lovely watery poem, and I'm going to just get my headphones on so I can actually... so B doesn't have to mime to me. So here we have, she's getting herself comfy in the seat there. Hello, B.
Hello, John. It's good to see you this Sunday. It's a nice, cozy Sunday to be indoors. So,
is it raining with you or sunny?
A bit of the both, but mostly the water.
That's the day it is, certainly. Well, at least we're not out with a hose pipe like in some years. Now, I was trying to find, you did present to me, you've got a water mythology poem. What's the title of that you're going to share with us?
The poem is called Cautionary Fairy Tale. And I'm going to give you a bit of background first before I tell you this story. It basically comes out of the Cavan Burren, which is not a million miles from where I live. It's in Black Lion in County Cavan. It's part of the Marble Arch Caves local geopark. And I was really interested in your intro when you were talking about the swallow holes and how it was a sea goddess who filled the swallow holes. Because if you go to the Cavan Burren, you will see swallow holes that are more formally known as doe lines, but you also will be walking on limestone pavement that has fossils of coral, because eons ago it was subtropical seafloor. So there, immediately I sort of twigged. I thought, oh, here is a connection between both swallowholes and a sea goddess, and how in a limestone landscape where there's lots of swallowholes, we also have evidence that it was many, many eons ago, ocean floor. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is that you were mentioning how hazel had traditionally been around a lot of holy wells. In this particular part of Ireland, I know it's not the same in other places, but because of the way the land is, how the earth is composed, what we find around our local holy wells are a lot of ash trees. Certainly, if you go to Holy Well in Belcoo, over the border in Fermanagh, they have ash trees. Up the lane from me, my holy well, which is known as Tubber, also has a little wet ash woodland beside it. So just thought I would put that in to the mix, since I'm now moving on to this particular bit of folklore about a fairy water horse. Now, as far as I know, the only places in Ireland that have stories about fairy water horses is Sligo and the Cavan Burren, and it's a very specific place in the Cavan Burren, known as Tullygobbin Loch. It didn't start out as a loch, it started out as a turloch, which is basically a disappearing lake. In winter, it would fill up with water, and then in summer, it would evaporate. And then over generations, at some point, some clever engineering ancestral person decided to line it with some of those many rocks from the Burren, and they created a reservoir. And this is the loch that the fairy water horse was said to inhabit. So here we are, cautionary fairy tale. Young women, beware handsome men with slicked back watery hair, ken their fetching grins that show a lot of teeth. For once in your ever young lives, defer to those older and more wise who can read the reality beneath. Handsome men that go wandering lochside, all snake-hipped swagger and full lust cry, need heeding. Fleet foot yourself away. For once in your ever young lives, defer to those older and more wise, head for home without further delay. Handsome men wandering lochside often lure with kisses and love sighs, tempting young women to get carried away. Yet at least once in your young lives, defer to those older and more wise. Don't yield and be led well astray. Handsome men with their slicked black watery hair have a habit of making young women care. Don't be fooled. He'll have you at his call and his beck. Please, for once in your ever young lives, defer to those older and more wise, that devil shake your life clear off its track. That handsome man will turn to fairy beast. That stallion will seek you for his own mortal feast. He'll love you, he'll lave you, but never leave you. So for heaven's sake of your ever young lives, would you not defer to those older and more wise who'd save you from riding to your doom? With a skin-turned water horse has only one true enclave. Tullygobbin Loch will always be his current consort's grave.
Oh, incredible. Thanks very much, Bea. As always, it's a fantastic pleasure, and I can't wait for the next time you're on as well. But that was beautiful because, of course, being familiar with Tullygobbin Loch, and there's Davina who's actually been there, but she's gives her another feeling. She looks back on her photographs is great. And so it's just people that have come on, a bit soggy in County Wexford. But thanks very much for that, Bea. As I say, I wish, when I get a guest, I wish we could go on forever, but we've certainly got a lot of content, a lot of fantastic guests. So hold on, we might have a bit of a question time, but I think this is going to be quite an extended session today. So thanks very much, B. That was fabulous, especially the entry. Oh, excuse. And when you were saying about ash, actually, the next thing that I'm going to go on about is the fact that there is a lot of ash around the wells around here, especially around here as well. So I'll kind of give an indication why. But thanks very much for that. And you've really done a great feed in for the next section. Thanks, B. We'll catch you a bit later on, I hope. Thank you. Fantastic with B. And lots of people have come on board here. Now, let's, if I can, there we go. Come on, there we go. Mary Dwyer, lovely poem from B. Thanks very much, Kate. Thank you, B. Got here just in time. Great. Claire's here. Claire, don't forget to log on because you're coming on soon for an introduction. The Wondrous Bee, love to hear and sound you. Tina Rock, love that too. I'm not getting her message up. There we go. And Sherry's here. Lovely Bee, magical blessing. All these Bee fans. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. And Elizabeth, greetings, Soggy in Wexford. There's a lot of you have come on board. Thank you very much for being here. Elizabeth Flynn here. A big hi to Kate Cloudparks there. And I think I've said Sherry. Shell's here. We've definitely got the regular team here, haven't we? Absolutely. And then we got a new one via the YouTube. Welcome on board, Margaret. Thanks for joining us from the UK there. Fabulous. That's lovely. Greetings as well. ZL. Okay, someone knows the code of that one, whatever that is. Fabulous. Okay, and let's move along the ship now, especially after that wonderful poem there from B. I'll take these out for a minute. And now B came up with a reminder there about the ash, because from the Norse mythology, there are stories of Yggdrasil, the tree of life. And we think of that as being the oak. A lot of people think of that as being the oak. And that's, forgive me now, because I didn't have time to do any more photos. So it's just me and the guests. But I hope you enjoy the rest. Anyway, the size of the oak and the sturdiness is told in myth stories. We think of the tree of life maybe as oak, but a lot of people talk about the tree of life being the ash, especially with its connection to water. And next time we have an Ogham session, I've got some new information about that from ancient Ogham that's not so much in the manuscripts, but it is there. And we'll talk about that, the ash and association with water. And sometimes tree of life is regarded as apple. I've talked about that in other nature folklore sessions, so won't go into that more. But I think oak is the favorite due to maybe its symbolism of justice and balance. But because of various stories, I love to feature the hazel as a tree of life. And I think, let's see, have I got another nice hazel tree? Well, I got this. I think this graphic is a good one to sort of go with for now anyway. It's strange, really, because many of us, when it comes to water, it seems strange, really, to have hazel, although I've seen hazel by water. But many of us, when we think of water, we think of willow, alder, and I've just mentioned ash. And these are the trees of water. And I've told you a short version of a kayak coming out the sea as a hazel tree and pissing down swallow holes. And at Sawan, I told stories of the kayak being the builder of mountains. And with that, of course, I call the Morna Coracuen. And that's her womb inside her in the center, maybe deep down and full of water. I was trying to get my picture up of that, but I bring that up at Sawan anyway. Well, water of life is flowing underground through the underworld, and it can travel a long distance underworld. And then at some point, pressure pushes that water up. It eventually rises and appears before us as these sacred springs, these places that we now call holy wells. Now, to me, I imagine that each sacred well the way that it comes up, it's as if it's umbilically connected to that hidden kayak, that Mauna Korakuan, the mountain pool right in the womb of the kayak, the womb of the mountain. And this is pure water. When we get water from the wells, it's chelated with minerals, because underwater there isn't so much oxygen. So therefore, the water itself is more charged, and it can actually pick up minerals as it travels along and chelates them. When it does that, it means when we can drink it, it actually absorbs into us and becomes part of us much easier than any supplement could ever do. So in basic science, water's ionic. So that explains that as well. So holy well water is indeed nutritious water. It's healing water because of those chelated minerals. And much more abundantly, as I say, it's because I did, this was part of my degree stuff, and we did research, and supplements have to take energy from our body for them to work. But you take the well water, it's all there. Nothing else is needed. The energy is there. So wherever we live, we either get mains water piped to us, or we get rainwater systems, or we manually dig a well for water supply. But I think what's amazing about these sacred wells, and I'm sure it was to the ancient communities seem to have grown up where these sacred wells, where these springs popped up, because that was their water supplies. Now, when I've got Gary coming on, and he's going to talk about the folklore of when people actually moved away from these wells as drinking water. So it's fascinating what he has to say about it. Now, going back to this hazel goddess kayak I spoke of coming out of the water, here's another version. I'll try and be brief with this. I picked this one up in Argyll, Argyll in Scotland. And this is the story of the hazel goddess from the sea. But she comes out and she's got 3 roots. And instead of going up the mountain to search for swallowholes, each of her roots stood in 3 wells. And sorry I haven't got pictures of this, but in this version, the earth was already established, water was flowing. So she had 1 root that was in a serpent well. Though the person told me in Scotland, talked about it as being a dragon well, but Charlie McGee in Donegal, he said serpent well. Choose what you like anyway. And any regulars here will know that I speak of serpents and dragons and the lore of that around Sawan time, about the tales of passing, transformation and rebirth, especially, as I say, Sawan again at Yule, and then Imbolc for the spring. Anyway, 1 root of this, from this hazel goddess, was in the serpent well, the Fluctra, the fire in the water. And again, I explained that Sawan time, and in the winter sessions. And then you got another root, and this is one you're probably familiar with, Mima's well. And a lot of people do know about that. And from Mima's well, it's told that life is shared with us through a sequence of visions that actually guide us. And it brings us enlightenment to expand our wisdom. And Mima's well is known, perhaps in association with most people, with Odin, who's told of as being frustrated and not having all the wisdom. How can a god exist without all the wisdom and knowledge of the world? And he's married to Frigg, who's got all this wisdom. She's a variation of this hazel goddess. And he was so frustrated he didn't have the wisdom that she had. And the story tells he actually donated an eye to her so that she'd given away how to get all this vision and exchange, so that he could have the whole knowledge in his existing eye and also his inner eye. Now, some folklore scholars believe that Frigg and Freya are the same goddess woman. But Mima's well, I think, is closely associated to the tradition that I often tell here about women, what they do either at Imbolc or May Day Eve, of staring into the well and getting a vision of the mate that they're about to meet and couple with Beltana. Now, the third root of this hazel goddess was in the Well of Erd. And this is perhaps better known in the stories as the 3 hags by the well. And sometimes these hags are associated with stories of fire, water, and the rock of the earth. Now, it's a very common story, and again, it's the one story that I tell, of the three hags of the Morrigan, and as I say, the Monacorcuan. But this three hag story pops up in mythology all around the world. And it's in Norse mythology, and they're the hags of the past, present, and future. But the way I see these three roots of the Kayak Hazel goddess is the Fullock, the well of birth, Mima's well of the living and growing, and the three hag well of Erd being suited to our Sawan tales, which of course is Sawan being a time when the debris from harvest, debris from the leaves is all fallen, and it's about to be transformed through the winter. And I talked about this on biodiversity last week. So the well of Erd may as well be, as I say, the well of Turd. I better move on now. Now, Claire Roach is the next guest. Is Claire here? Claire, she's there. And wonderful. And we're going to feature Claire's specializing song for this Water Day. And now that Claire's here, she's going to introduce it for you, which is absolutely fabulous. Hello, Claire. There she is. Looks like you're outside. I better get my headphones on for Claire here. Goodness.
Hello, everybody.
There she is. She's talking away, and I'm there we go. Hello, Claire. I'm here now.
Away. Well, John, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for the beautiful guests, and of course for your dear self, because I learned so much, and I love the shows. But rather than go on too much, just behind me here is the location of the pond in Chesterfield. And as a child, I had a little boat. And you'll hear in the song, it was pure magic. Because you could spend hours literally looking for tadpoles and seeing them grow in the pond, and all the beautiful little creatures and the ducks and the moorhens. But it was a place of absolute beauty, and thankfully it's still here. And I just love it, and I really hope that the people that listen to it will enjoy it and do ask me questions, or John. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Sir John.
Right. Oh, it's lovely that you're outside there.
Yes.
That's fabulous. Can you actually can you put the phone down lower so we can actually see? Although we will see it in the video, which would be wonderful.
Let's see.
But it's lovely to have you outside amongst the trees there, and it can't be raining. Anyway, there's going to be lots of there's going to be a lot of the pond in this. So without further ado, this is Claire Roach with the Pond of Chesterfield, and she hasn't even seen this yet. I'm delighted to play this. Pond in Chesterfield, here we go.
Thank you.
And know your peace.
rushing shadowy waters, while light dances everywhere. In the dark depths of that pond in Chesterfield, I could gaze for hours. There must be a kind of peace there my soul longs to share.
Wow, I hope you enjoyed that. Claire, still there? Sorry, I'm quite moved. And a lot of you, Claire on piano is probably something you don't see of much because it's Claire on the harp usually. But that goes way back in time. And I hope that wasn't, the video came across darker, but I hope you saw everything there. I'll talk to Claire about that and the reaction a bit later. I'm still quite moved by myself. So anyway, the comments, hello to everyone from down East Maine, right? That's Sherry. Almost, let's see if I can continue this show. Stunning and magical. Thank you for your song. And the hair is standing up the back of my neck. That's a minimum I can say. And Sean Derry, no, I don't know what this Sean Derry is. Is that a hack? Okay. What a beautiful singer. What is this Sean Derry? Let's see. I'm going to manipulate that. Right. That one's obviously not coming through properly. All right. Sorry about that intrusion. I don't get that very often. Stunning and magical. Thank you. Maybe maybe he thinks I'm a medical service or something. Elizabeth, what a beautiful singer, definitely. And Pip's here. Hello, Pip. Tuned in from downtown Mullingar, the Paris of the Midlands. Great to have you aboard, Pip. And Gemma, thank you, gorgeous Claire. Tina Rock, enchanting Claire. Davina, and lots of Claire fans. Yeah, I'm glad you're delighting. Glad you're here for that. And Polly Gormley, Tobin, Sacred Well in Loughs. That's going to be talked about, I'm sure, a bit later. And from YouTube, we have The Cosmic Mirror, Love from South Carolina, and Kate Burrows. Elizabeth, I think Kate is busy gardening or something. She usually tunes in the evening, so she'll comment. I don't think she's been on live, except when she's been a guest. So we'll catch her in the evening. My garden's full of ash saplings self-planted. Great, Gemma. That is a fantastic thing to have and to use, especially with this dieback. I think we could do with all the ashes we can get hold of. And yes, definitely deeply embedded in Irish folklore. And it's so sad. Yeah, the ash dieback is a vital one as well. So thank you for the comments. Lots of you on board there and got to hear Claire and we'll hear a bit later. Incredible. Well, I'm still kind of moved by that, and let's get sorted here. I've been sorry. I'm trying to deal with this hacker that's trying to get through. Right, I think we got rid of the hacker now. Right, to continue. So returning here to the imagery of the hazel goddess coming out of the sea and those three roots in the wells. What's common? Everything in those stories, have you noticed, everything in those well stories are feminine. And I'm going to talk more about that in a couple of weeks' time, I think, in the Ashlings and Green Man, that nature folklore session that's coming up. But in every tradition around the world and in every story of that tradition, it seems to always be women that go to collect water from the wells for their families. Seems a natural thing to do, I suppose. But it's also explained as being a bit of a patriarchal thing as well. I just send the missus down to the well to get the water. She's got a bent back anyway. But I think this has evolved as a connection the women going down to the well for the water. And soon we're going to have Shannon, who's a founder of Women of the Water, and she'll probably demonstrate how water's very much in the feminine realm through that. So maybe it's hard to imagine men of the water, but then there's John the Baptist, there's the sea gods of Magmanaman and Poseidon, Neptune, and later we got Gary Brannigan, the founder of Ancient and Holy Wells of Ireland. Wonderful guest to have on board. Doesn't look like we've got him on live. I was saying, can he come on and say hello? Anyway, he did a pre-recording and he explains in that way he might not be here. But thinking of water, I said all these men, gods in there, but there's Mer. We talk of Mer, the water being Mer, the Mer. And that was once a word for a vast amount of water, not necessarily seawater. So there, Mer is symbolic. And we've shared many times here the traditions of women looking into the wells for visions. And the word Mer, and I'm going to talk about this again with the Ashlings, how that changed to Mary. Now, visions in the well, not only seeking for visions of a future mate, but the already mated, they'll look into the well for visions of questions, maybe of their family, their health, their illness, their harvest. And I tend to call all of this the visions, prophecy of the present, the illumination we get. And of course, staring into a well is a form of divination too. And most of us are aware of stories of Nostradamus looking into a bowl of water for prophecies. So why do I keep referring to a hazel when I'm talking about water and trying to tell stories about water? Well, all around the world, the hazel tree, much more than the hawthorn tree, is referred to as having the roots from which the little people emerge, up through the water, up through the hazel trees. And these little people could be dryads, the nymphs, and in Ireland we have the she, fae, and fairies, which we tend to associate with hawthorn more these days. So to me, I translate the staring into the water as the actual calling up of these little people. And Sarah Humble, who we got a bit later on, she's connected with the Fairy Council of Ireland. And so I'm sure she'll say a little bit about that, the connection there. Although within our different faiths, not everybody will say they're calling up the fairies or the she. Some people, they're calling up the guiding spirits, the angels, or even the hand of the Lord. And the important practice, I feel, of this tradition that I often repeat is the contemplation on that water follows a question. But the whole experience can be shattered if we're actually looking into these pools and expecting an answer, or try to frame the limitations of what the vision from that well may be, or what the answer would be. We'll shatter it. We've really got to be fully open with that vision of the well connecting with the water, and allow that vision to be what it's going to be and trust it. So I recommend ask the question, don't seek the answers, live with that question. So instead, contemplate the visions, let them guide you. And another range of stories I love about wells are the guardian of these sacred wells. I did have some photos lined up, but I got a sort of a quick guardian picture that I dragged up last minute. Nice artist impression of a guardian by the well there. And there is a lot about that. I'm going to skip on most of the stories. But I'm going to also make some short video stories for our subscribers as well around visions from the well. But in Story in Transition, there's guardians of everything. Guardians of trees, guardians of woods, guardians of mountains, and guardians of the seas, the rivers, the lakes, and of course, guardians of the sacred wells. Now these guardians, the Ku, are often imagined as a dog, a wolf, or a fox. But let me tell you a little about hazel trees and their guardians. Now, with hazel trees by water, wells and pools, like all hazel trees present, there's always a temptation to pick the nuts before they're ripe, aren't there? And that temptation to have them, we want them before the other creatures get to them, or some fall and get transported and incubate and sprout and grow into more hazel trees, also get there before the other humans as well. And many of you will be familiar with old stories of the salmon of knowledge swimming upstream to a river source pool and getting the first pickings of hazelnuts, though some stories have changed the hazel to a rowan tree. And the salmon of knowledge eating those berries and getting covered in red spots. That's the rowan story. But hazel trees have guardians too. So look up stories, and I haven't got time to tell them today. I told them, if you look in the video of doing this last year, there's Melchdick. So I better make a short video of him in due course. And he's a folklore guardian of hazels around England and Wales. And in Somerset and Dorset in England, there's a similar character, and he's called Peter Piddle. He's a friendly and there's a little person, huge scrumpy drinker, by the way. And of course, anyone who drinks a lot of scrumpy, which is rough cider, is going to piddle a lot. And it's said that when Peter piddled his scrumpy into the source pool of a river, the apple scent of his pee went downstream and it attracted the salmon to swim upstream, right up to where he's piddling. So in Dorset, there is a river Piddle in Dorset, and the source of this river is a place called Alton Pancras, which is halfway between Dorchester and Shelbourne. Now in Scotland, there's a hazel guardian there. He's Hinderteen. Well, the spelling's odd, Hind, Hind, as you know. 18 is Atain. And if you go to the UK and Ireland pantomimes, you'll be familiar with one of the lines, "Look behind you." And I'll make a short video of why that roots back to Hinderteen and to his story. And we can blame the Grimm's brothers for changing that. They knew the Hinderteen story and they put it into their stories and pantomime. Anyway, fortunately, Hind had a crooked leg and he was easy to run away from. And any animals that have got powerful hind legs, they've said to come from this story so they can get away from Hinderteen. Anyway, due to having to move on this afternoon, that's as much as I'm going to say about that. And I'd like to move on to a video. As I say, Gary, have you got here yet? No, Gary's here. So I'm going to go into our next video, which features our guest in distance, Gary Hannigan. And as I say, Gary's not here today, and he sent me this video footage, and he explains why he's not with us. So without further ado, I'm going to start you off. Here is Gary Hannigan, which some of you are familiar with. Here we go with
everybody. Gary here.
There he is.
I'm delighted to have been asked by John to talk a little bit about my experience with the Holy Wells and my take on them, and also talk a little bit about the folklore attached to them. I would have loved to have been involved live, but I've been asked to be part of a very small section of a special nationwide programme completely dedicated to Ireland's Holy Wells, which is very exciting. For the past 25 years, I've been researching, visiting, and sometimes rediscovering Holy Wells and documenting them in an effort to try and save them for the future. And when I say save them from the future, I would say that it's not only the structure or the monument of the well, but also the water source, which is equally as important, if not more important. At this point, I've visited quite a few holy wells over the years. If I was to put a number on it, I would say the amount of holy wells I've visited in Ireland would be at least 1,500, which is quite a lot. I've visited more on the Isle of Man and Wales, Scotland, and a number even in Germany, where my wife comes from. Researching holy wells back in the 90s was more difficult than it is today, because so many of the resources were held locally and they weren't digitized. My main go-to to visit holy wells were the old OSI maps, but But an issue with those was that they seemed to be quite sporadic in how they recorded them. They might record ones that disappeared 100 years ago, and then other holy wells that are quite active are not there at all. I was fortunate enough back in those days to have been accepted as a member of Sláine, and I learned a lot from a lady called Mo Griffith, who lived out in Blessington. So she was a great help. In a lot of ways, the wells have been one of the few constants for me for as long as I can remember. And although I love the historical aspect to them, there's definitely something more than can be seen. And I'm just not able to put my finger on it or put into words what exactly that is. Many people will be familiar with the Facebook group Ancient and Holy Wells of Ireland, which I created in 2010. I created it as a place where I could put my own photographs up online and tie in with the locations, hoping that people would visit them and hoping that other people would put their own photographs up. The group has grown into a really lovely community. It's at somewhere around 6,400 members now from all over the world, and numerous friendships have been born from the group, and numerous projects to visit wells, clean up wells, that kind of thing. In 2012, I launched a book called Ancient and Holy Wells of Dublin, where I documented the research I'd carried out and my visits to all 128 holy well sites in Dublin. It was extremely hard work, but it was amazing. The book has led to me speaking at a number of historical society talks around Dublin, around Ireland. And about 5 years ago, I was invited over to the University of Wales to talk about the Holy Wells of Dublin. And the following year, the Holy Wells of Kildare. So there definitely is a lot of interest, particularly in the last few years. The Dukas website, which records the school's folklore collection, it's from the 1930s, where school children were instructed to interview older people in their neighbourhoods and just to talk about any kind of customs or folklore or games or that kind of thing that they would have done when they were children. So obviously holy wells back in the 30s would have been a massive part of community life. So a lot of the practices, a lot of the folklore at the time would still have been very much alive. So it's great we have that to tap into. Archaeology.ie is very good. It has all the registered monuments, protected monuments in the country. So you can look at a modern day map of Ireland, whether it be a map or an aerial photographs, and they have little red dots for every recorded monument that they have. You can click on it to see what it is. So it'll help you, guide you to that place. Sometimes they are difficult to find. Likewise, you can look at the old maps from the 1800s, and some of those places won't be recorded or protected. So it's great to have a look to see if anything still remains on the ground. Contact the National Monument Service, get them to put it down as a recorded monument, and that's the first step to getting that protected. In terms of folklore, there is a lot of folklore, and some might say superstition associated with holy wells, from how the well was created to how they should be treated. Here's a few of the more common ones. So the creation of a holy well is usually attributed to a local saint who baptized local pagans in a pre-existing spring on the site. But many have also been known as places where miracles were performed. A common theme being where the saint struck the rock with his staff, and when he did that, he would have a jet of water spring forth. The water from holy wells is said never to boil, and the wood or bark from their sacred tree is said never to burn, but to try would only tempt fate and bring a punishment from the well. Sacred fish, usually an eel or trout, are a common aspect of holy wells, and seeing them can be a positive omen that a wish or prayer will be granted, or that a cure is on its way. Or it could also mean the complete opposite, where the person seeing it may be struck down with misfortune, illness, or death. So that's a difficult one to get your head around. Rounding is a unique practice at holy wells in Ireland. It doesn't appear to be practiced at any point in any of the other holy wells in other countries. The practice where pilgrims would walk clockwise or in the direction of the sun in an odd number of circuits around the well, usually 3, 6 or 9. Separate to that, it's possible to place a curse on someone by performing the round in reverse, that is, against the direction of the sun. Repercussions would befall the perpetrator if the curse was not deserved, and it's said that 3 times the curse would come back on that person. Another thing is that a holy well should never be used for domestic purposes. What I have seen in some areas where water is a little bit scarce is they have redirected the outflow from a holy well, created a second well, and that one is then used for domestic purposes. Now, even though the water is the same, it's seen as a workaround from offending the holy well. But what I will do is I'll talk about a holy well that's very close to me. It's probably it's one of the holy wells that I would have visited a lot, particularly years ago when I wouldn't have had a car, so would have been able to get there with public transport. And it's just such a lovely place. So the well I'm going to talk about is St. Columcille's Well. It's in the townland of Old Court, on the outskirts of Tallaght. St. Columcille's Well is also known as Tubber Columcille or Tubber na Gluas. It's located in a small wooded area and flows into a little stream. The outflow from the well and the stream form one of the 6 sources of the River Dodder in Dublin. Local folk legend states that the well is the location where in the 6th century St. Columcille rested and quenched his thirst while travelling on pilgrimage from Glasnevin to Glendalough, where he was meeting St. Kevin. So there you have the folklore of the creation of the well. So he drank from a pre-existing spring, therefore he made it holy, and it's been holy ever since. There is also a rock there. It's known as a bull-on stone. The jury's kind of out as to what the reason or the purpose of bull-on stones were. But they are associated with early Christian sites for the most part. A number of them have stones still in the rock basin, and they've become known as cursing stones or curing stones. So obviously, in some cases, a curse can be placed on somebody or a blessing. So you do have with holy wells a kind of a yin-yang type relationship where it's very much a positive, blessed place, but it can be quite a dark place as well. The well itself, it's documented that in 1592, Red Hugh O'Donnell, Art O'Neill and Henry O'Donnell passed the holy well when they escaped from Dublin Castle on their way to the safety of Fiach McHugh's stronghold in Glenmalure. The cures attributed to the well are particularly for disorders of the eyes, throat and ears. And the alternative name for the well is Tubber na Gluas, or well of the ear. It's believed 9 consecutive visits to the well are required in order to successfully obtain a cure. The well was lost for a good few years, and the local story goes that the local postman, Jim Murray, from Rathfarnham, was observing, I suppose you would call novitiates, trainee priests, crossing a local field and disappearing into the hedgerow, and he was taken aback by this, and he did some investigating and found that the Holy Well of St. Columkill was there. Yeah, so the well was rededicated in 1921, I think it was. New trees were planted, a bridge was planted, and you have a canopy over the well now. And a pattern is held every year to this day on the Sunday nearest the 9th of June, which is St. Columkill's Day. A pilgrimage was organised to the well in 1918 when Ireland was still part of the British Empire. And the pilgrimage was organised to beg Columkill's intercession in averting conscription in Ireland. That's all I'll say about that. What I would suggest is, if you can visit the well, if you're in Dublin, if you're in Tallaght, South Dublin, it's a very, very nice place. It's starting to have suburbia encroaching around it, but it hasn't happened just yet. The houses are one field away, so I'd urge you to go and see that. I did meet one German lady quite a number of years ago who is adamant that she was cured of cancer at the well. She was staying in a local house from Germany. By her own admission, she was a complete non-believer in anything and everything. And the lady she was staying with was trying to persuade her to go to the well. So she finally relented. She visited the well with the lady, and she brought her back 9 times. And when she went back to Germany, apparently her cancer went into remission. And she's cancer-free to this day. So who am I to say that that's rubbish? I'm not. I'll finish off with a poem that's written about St. Columkill's well. It was written quite a long time ago. The person who wrote it, the name has been lost. So I'd like to keep it alive because it's quite a nice poem. So here we go. St. Columkill's well. As I went out to Dublin to climb Montpellier Hill, to Killikee and Featherbed and up the mountain still, my thoughts were scarce as pennyworth until I chanced to see the name of dear St. Columkill bright lettered on a tree. A rugged stile, a rustic bridge soon added to the spell. They led me to a lovely shrine beside a holy well. A statue of the saint is there, he looks so young and sweet, in robes of white with scrip and staff and sandals on his feet. In olden times, in golden time, I hear the water say, St. Columkill from Talcaside came wandering up this way. O bless the sacred, bright noonday sun, fair land and shining sea. Clear spring water, happy stream, come, praise his name with me. And so the memory that we keep, the story that we tell, the saint, the blessing and the prayer beside the holy well. And we will come from Dublin when Doon is with us still, to keep the feast and all be blessed by dear St. Columkill. So that's me, guys. I'll say goodbye now if that's all right. Again, I wish I could have joined you all live, but I'm sure we'll all get together at some point in the future. If you want to contact me for any reason, you can get me through Ancient and Holy Wells of Ireland. On Facebook, my name is Garrod O'Branigoin. So if you search for that name, if you search Gary Brannigan, it'll come up as well. Drop me a message and I'll come back to you if you needs be. Okay. Thanks, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much for that, Gary. Yes. Oh, goodness me. It's a shame we didn't have him because the story there was with Gary. the Nationwide moved him to Saturday, and the poor man, he was going off to Nationwide on Saturday. The gearbox went, and he couldn't get to them. He couldn't get a lift there, so he's not on Nationwide. And he said, oh, great, I can be on today. And unfortunately, there was internet problems and various others. So it was good to have that from Gary. You got to see him, and I think people appreciate. Don't go away, because as I say, this is extended. We've got stunning guests to come. Thank you for a lovely formative sharing. It's great to hear Gary, definitely. We'll get him live sometime. Fascinating speak on. A lot of people know. Lovely to have you here, Big Bear from Donegal. And Tina was glad to see Gary there as well. Ask the questions, seek the answers. And I've got an apology to make. Sean Derry, he came on with multiple messages, and when I've had that before, that has been an attempted hacker. I usually get that from Twitter, not from Facebook. So if you're watching somehow, Sean, I'm so sorry for that. Sorry that you were genuine. You obviously was having a struggle getting a message through. So my sincere apologies, and we'll get back to you. In fact, afterwards, I'll probably send an apology message to you. So thanks for coming on board anyway. And Tina Rock was pointing out, wonderful man. There you go. I've kind of hung a wonderful man. So sorry about that. And Polly says hello to Pip. Lovely to have Pip on board. Great. And so I better move on quickly. As I say, we're running definitely into serious overtime, and I think it's well worth it. I hope you do. And I was going to talk about Billy Trees Association. I'm going to skip that. But Billy, as you may know, is the grandfather of the Sons of Mill, and he was half hazel, half human. And we know about the Sons of Mill and Milesian with their father. But he had another son. Billy had another son, Fort. And he and his sons, he sailed off to Scotland, what is now Scotland. And they landed in a place that's told in stories as the Morach Doida. The Morach Doida is told of, and it's a shame I haven't got the photo to show you this, because I've got beautiful photos somewhere. This is the Berg on the Isle of Mull. In the Hebrides, is where Loch Screen comes into the ocean. And the stories of the Doida are within the Berg, beautiful multi-layered mountain, and it's a beautiful coastal mountain, and it has huge waterfalls on the end. It's a shame I couldn't get the photos up. But I used to take groups out to here, and we could get behind the waterfalls and stay overnight. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And it's interesting that these waterfalls and caves, right next to them, there's a fossil tree that's actually believed to be a hazel tree as well. Now, the Doida stories are very similar to the Morrigan and stories that we have in Ireland, and also translates as having life within a pool within the hill. She's also told of as being the generator of truth. This is the Doida in the Berg. But I'm going to leave that story for subscribers, and when we talk about Ushnik Tara, etc., because there's a funny story about the turning turf. Anyway, what fascinates me is the character that we call the Dagda in Ireland, who was lured to mate with the Morrigan either by the three hags at the well or a washerwoman at the River Unshin, depending on the story you follow. But in Donegal, Northern Ireland and around Scotland, Dagda is often called Doida, which is short of meaning the lover of or mate of the Doida in the Berg. Now, before I finish my story rants here, I'd like to say more. Well, I was going to talk about Billy, but I'm going to about the Billy tree. You probably know that as well as much. Each of these Billy trees do have a source, and we'll talk about that more, I think, when I do the Orm. But there's a story also that Billies weren't just by water wells, they were estuaries. And we have one at the estuary of the Lagan called Billy First. Billy First, and Tina will know about this one. That's how Belfast got its name, Billy First. Billy First, Belfast. And the other one is on the Shannon estuary, at Buick Cool, Kuil on Inishkathak, known as Scattery Island. And I hope you don't mind, rather than go on, we haven't been out in the tree labyrinth. I'm going to go from last year. It's very short, in the tree labyrinth, so to have an excuse, I'll tell you about that one, the Billy Tree in Scattery Island. And then you've got the Inishkathak, which is down in the Shannon, estuary of the Shannon, Scattery Island. This was a saint, Saint Sinan, took residence there, took retreat there in 534 AD, I believe, and he made it completely a men's sanctuary, certainly a patriarch. And whilst he was there were people farming there and living there, but their water was running out. Where they preserve the water, I gather they have other wells, and it was running out, and they went through a drought. And that drought, like me, they were getting very thirsty. So it was up to him, and he was the kind of bishop, the leader of this, and what was he going to do to provide the water? Well, they had hazels on the island, and so he got a wide hazel stick, and he dug it in, and he started digging and digging, and he dug a big hole, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it went deeper and deeper, because he believed, and I think he probably had used this hazel to try and divine, like people do, trying to find water. And this was where somehow his conscience was saying, yes, there's water down here. So he was using that stick that he had been doing his divining with to actually create this hole, because if he's using the stick, then that's going to encourage the water to come along. But it went deeper and deeper and deeper, and there was no water, and he was frustrated, and he gave up. Feck this. And he just stuck that rod beside this hole and just disappeared. And then the following morning he came to the hole, and there it was, crystal clear water, and the stick was left, his hazel rod that he got was left there, and of course that became a hazel tree, the Biakul, the sacred hazel, which apparently by this well on Scattery Island, there for hundreds of years. I gather there are records of that, and the island never went without water. So there we have a bit about Scattery Island there, and the hazel stick associated with shamans and druids. Their stick tapping carries all their wisdom. And even W.B. Yeats always believed that the tree of life was the hazel as well. And he talked to the hazel trinity, being the bringer of wisdom, illuminator of our visions, and the creator of poets. And think of the three pillars I start every nature folklore session with. That's where I got it from, the W.B. Yeats Trinity. So let's go from hazel now to our lovely two watery guests that have been waiting so patiently. And this is going to be exciting stuff. Lasses and lads, we got the lovely regular and creator of All Is Well, partner of the Fairy Council of Ireland, and community leader and visionary within the Women of the Water. We got Sarah Humble somewhere here. Hello, Sarah. Let's bring you in. How are you doing? Thank you for being so patient, and thank you for being so visible. How are you there? Can we hear you? Can you hear me? We got a voice from you today. Hello? You're miming.
Hello?
No voice at the moment.
Oh, no.
We get there. We're getting there. Anyway, I'll bring the next guest on. She's the founder of Women of the Water, and quite a list of communities that she works and guides for, including Centre of Earth Ethics, Temple of the Rose, Return of the Source, and most important for today, perhaps, the Global Water Dances. Also, Seniors Have Dreams Too. So we have Shannon Michaela Dory Smith. Let's bring her on board. There she is. Got so many guests. Wonderful. Hello there, Shannon. How are you?
Hello. Good.
So nice to see you. Thanks so much.
And you too. You're certainly loud and clear. Let's get a bit of a better background up here, and so we haven't got the words. And let's see if we're going to multiply. That'll be better for us. There we go. So it's great. Wonderful, Shannon. And let's see if we've got Sarah. You got some voice yet? She's smiling away there. Still wait. Say something, Sarah. See how you're doing. Hello there. Oh, I love the dog. Can the dog speak? There we go. Right, we'll keep coming back to see if we got some from. But Sharon, where are you? Oh, I've taken you away. There we go. Shannon, goodness me, Women of the Water. Tell us something about Women of the Water for a start. That'd be fabulous.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. And just to say, first off, just thanks so much. You have so many wonderful guests here, and I always learn so much listening in, and just it's wonderful to be here. The Women of the Water really is. We're sort of a coalition that kind of emerged, an international coalition, mostly of Irish-born and American-born, many of whom are of Irish descent. And we kind of just found each other. We were all somehow touched. I think, you know, I love how you've been speaking of the visionary aspects of the wells, but somehow each one of us was touched by the water in some way, to carry water, to protect water, to work with the water in some capacity, and we found each other. And we're from as far west as Oregon in the United States and as far east as Portugal, and we hold a sanctuary space together so that we can support one another's work and learn from one another, and hopefully reach out and connect with many other women, especially who are awakening to some kind of calling to be closer to the water.
Hi. Now, of course, the other. Whoops! I've taken you away again. The thing that's exciting me as well, the global water dances. I haven't got a clue. It sounds absolutely wonderful, and it sounds absolutely essential. Kind of ritual or ceremony by any water, well, by a loch, by a pond, by a river estuary, like I was talking about.
Absolutely. Global water dances is something that I've been participating in that event since 2013. They started in, I believe, 2011. This is their 10-year anniversary year. And usually it's about 80 countries that participate, hundreds of sites, you know, every continent, you know, Africa, Europe, the United States, India, communities everywhere. And it is this wonderful opportunity for communities to gather at their local water sources and to share with their communities the value of clean water. So that's the mission for the organization, is really dancing for clean water and for clean water access everywhere. And they have beautiful resources they've collected. But it's really this essential nature of bringing the community together. There's a clip in one of their videos, and you can see it, globalwaterdances.org, many of the sites internationally that have participated. But there's a woman who says something about, if we all talk at the same time, it's just a lot of noise and you don't get much accomplished. But if we move together, then something wonderful happens. So so that's part of the nature of it. Yeah.
Ah, that's beautiful. I'm going to see if we've got any luck with Sarah here. How are you doing, Sarah? Can we hear you? How's the vocals from you now? Oh, the dog's gone.
I don't think I would make any difference.
Oh, we're hearing bits from you, because I'm dying to hear the latest news on All Is Well.
Very French. And it always seems
We've kind of lost there. Now, I was hearing from Sarah, Shannon, the two of you were together in Kildare at the Wells. And So that was you must be in Ireland. Are you in Ireland just now?
I am
You
in
must
Ireland.
be.
Yeah, I've spent quite a bit of time here for the last few years. And Sarai and I just saw each other a few days ago as part of her little journey. And she was continuing through Kildare and other Bridget's Well sites. But part of what is so incredible about what All Is Well is doing, Sarai's work, through the Ferry Council and All Is Well in particular, to gather people around the holy wells for, maintenance, from the spiritual to the practical. And so when she was doing the walk that she did during the summer, her 2-month journey, myself and Karen Minchin, who actually introduced Sarai and I, we joined with some of that community at Bridget's Well near Ishnok, and participated in the well cleanup, and what an amazing experience. The creativity, the camaraderie, and that was at Samhain, and myself and Karen were there recently with some other women, local women, and got to see 6 months later at Beltane how stunningly beautiful that well is now. The ferry village is well occupied, and there is a new. I think she would have talked about, speaking of the ash trees, there was an ash there that had been struck by lightning, and there is a Native American tradition where they say that those trees are very sacred that get struck, and it's good to leave them for about a year to let let nature take back what it needs, let the animals take back what they need. And that's sort of what happened in that place. It was left for about a year, and then we came and then transformed it into new life. So it was a huge blessing to go and see a new sprig, a new sprout of a tree growing out of the old ash. And I think Sarai just went on a little journey to Kildare and back to that well to sort of celebrate the new life at Beltane.
Ah, fabulous. So that's Sarah. It's lovely to at least see you, Sarah, anyway. Now, the one thing that Sarah did manage to say through a message before we came on the air, she said, ask Shannon to sing a song. So, Shannon, can you sing us a song?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I'll sing you a little song. It's usually sung in 2 parts. But it's just myself here, so you'll just get to hear the 2 parts separately. But it's very short, and I can sing it in Irish and in English. And it's called Born of Water. And it's something
Yes.
that I carried from the States with me here, and it seems to be taking on a life of its own. So forgive my pronunciation of the Irish. I'm bound to make mistakes. Born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing, I am. Born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing, I am. Born of water, I am. Born of water, I am. Rugdag dishka glana lodgeleas atru ishme. Rugdag dishka glana lodgeleas atru ishme. Rugdag Ishke, Ishme, Rudolph, Dishka, Ishmael.
Ah, beautiful, Shannon. Now, I hope the people who are watching here, I hope some of you were singing along with that, because some of the viewers here, they've actually been here and visiting the wells around where we live. And when we get to the wells, some of them actually burst into song with that song. So it's beautiful to hear you singing it. And do say in comments if any of you were singing along with that, because I know some of you are very familiar, and I'm so pleased that you brought that up. Now, as I did say, we did expect to run into overtime. I'm not in a hurry to go away. I hope you folks are not too much of a hurry. And I'm going to bring everyone up. So ask questions. Oh, Bee's running away there. Is Claire around? I'd like to bring you all up. And fire away with your questions and what you would like to say to these people. And let's see what we got coming up for a while. Tina, haunting, beautiful vocals. Sherry, I think I've heard you sing that one, haven't I, Tina? And then Andrea Rose, I sang that with you to my lake in Florida. Great, Andrea. Thanks very much for saying that. Sherry, I haven't seen her over here yet, but I bet you sing that sometimes, don't you? And the sweet dog, yeah, we got 2 dogs in the end there, and that's Andrea enjoying that there, and Sherry, love you, sweet fur baby, yes, she's the sweet fur baby. I think we can actually get back on again. There she is. Absolutely brilliant. There you go. At least we got the fur baby. It was worth you coming on, Sarah, just for the fur baby. So that's lovely. And we've got Polly. Hi, Sarah. Various fairy on all of the island. So even though we couldn't get much from you, it was well worth seeing you and that beautiful smile. And of course, the fur baby. Right, questions. Come on, everybody. I think you're probably mesmerized by our incredible guest today. What did you think of Claire's video? Let's go back to that, because I'm still kind of moved by that. I know I kind of assembled the thing and it didn't really hit me until it was actually broadcasted. So, Claire, did you actually see it? Is Claire there? Hello, Claire. Claire?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Yeah, did you get a chance to see it? Yeah. I hope you approved. There you go.
I think you're a genius, John, to put those beautiful photos and images and words. Thanks so much.
It's very difficult to bring the atmosphere of that into a video, a real struggle. And of course, with Claire, it was lovely to get you at the piano. I'm glad we got some of that, even though it might have been completely synced. But that was great. And then we started off, obviously, with Claire's beautiful poem as well, of the loch, the Turlock in the middle of the Cavern Burren, which has there's a sort of viewing point on it now, and there is something when you actually say it was great to get an insight into that. So thanks be Shannon, of course, the singing, and again, there was so much we could cover, but please look them up, as I say, the Women of the Water and the Global Water Dances. And let's not forget B. We got the Sojourning Smith, because she writes such a lot of wonderful poetry. And it's worth going to the blog on the Facebook page and catch up the poems. I mean, I've seen her craft develop over the years, and we've had her as a guest a few times. Absolutely stunning what she puts together and the teaching that she does. So worth giving a plug there. And Claire, you can see what's going on with Claire. The music there, it's not just harp, it's piano, it's electric harp, there's a lot. ClaireRoach.com there. So before I move on to tell you what's coming up, just fire those questions while we got these guests here Tina hopes to meet Sarah soon. Elizabeth, Claire, you're gifted such a voice. It's full of compliments. I'm not getting which is beautiful. I just wondered if you got any questions about wells, loughs, sacred ponds, sacred spring sources that are near you. And Andrea asks, have you had the opportunity to float on the water, Claire? You're floating on the water experiences. Ophelia, have you dressed up like Ophelia and done a sort of reenactment of Ophelia and the pond?
Well, yes, I could do that. I'm a sailor by history, so maybe I'll do that in the sea or on the Shannon. But yeah, it is magic. I've often swum in the pond amidst the little insects and tadpoles. But yeah, so I'll keep that one in mind to do it again.
And the one thing that's nice about Irish ponds and water like that, I was reading of a woman up in Michigan, I think she's at, and she was on a kayak, and there were water moccasins. At least there's no water moccasins here. I thought, goodness me, the number of times I've capsized in a kayak. So brave woman there. Sharon, what's coming up with you next? What's the next events with you?
Well, actually, it's funny. Sarai and I were just talking before this call. We've both been following, as I think probably yourself and many people here have been following the wonderful work at Save the Boyne. And you know, a lot of folks have really showed up. I think there's over 8,000 people in the Facebook group, and really welcome folks to join that group, Save the Boyne on Facebook, and to learn about the Don Meats application for I just think it's a 7.2 meter pipeline that they're wanting to, you know, add more polluted water to the beautiful Boyne. And with Global Water Dances coming up in a few weeks, we were just talking about putting a call out. They're accepting videos still for another week to add to the mix. And so I think there's an invitation there to maybe go and do a bit of dancing by the riverside, and to add that to sort of the beauty and the education of what's happening there. I think it's a wonderful way to get the word out. So folks are welcome to contact us if they'd like to be involved in doing that in the next few weeks.
Oh, that'd be wonderful, because there are some dancers I know. Sometimes they watch in the evening on the next day, but I'll definitely get the word out of that. You should be listening. You'll have to watch Shannon here. Anyway, we are doing very well. Let's see, any other questions, because I will move on to what's coming up. Andrea is very connected to springs in Florida, because there's one thing about Florida, that there are still some wild parts there that have some incredible springs in them, and the waters from those springs, you can actually bathe in them. Great experiences, because of course the water is sort of warm, but when it comes out of the spring, it's actually icy cold. But she says plenty of stories. There certainly are, especially connected to manatees, serpents, bears, and panthers as well. But I relocated from a Lake District in England and feel the draw to the water stronger. So that, I think, thank you so much, especially to Bea and Claire, who've been hanging on quite a while. Thank you, all the guests. I'm just going to say what we got coming up, and I hope we'll have you all back again sometime not too distant. And I trust everyone's enjoyed their guests. I think from the comments they certainly are. As I say, we're not finished yet, so thank you all and for being here. So that was absolutely fabulous. And again, we haven't got Gary. Right, coming up on Nature Folklore Sessions, let's get to my pretty pictures here. Next week, 30th of May, it's rewilding. Rewilding our mind and spirit. So, of course, it's not just in the action of rewilding, but what this actually does. It's almost like a continuation of what we went through with the biodiversity last week. So that's great. And this is going to focus on this. It's okay not to be tidy. It's okay not to be tidy in our gardens, but obviously keep them reasonably safe. And then 6th of June, it's bloom time, and there's not going to be any bloom festival. People have got mixed comments about that, but it's a time for celebrating our garden sanctuaries. We'll have guests with their gardens, and especially their kind of wildy parts. We'll have that. They'll show us their flowers, the colors of summer all around their garden. And one we had last week that was last year was fabulous. 13th of June, sound bathing, where we'll have people who provide sound bathing for other people. We'll have them on board as well as live guests on the 13th. And so it's a very soothing session. So before I go, let's see what who we got on. Went canoeing down the river yesterday, Joey Sparks. Thank you for that. So thank you all so much. Guests today, thank you so much. Wonderful guests, weren't they? Absolutely a gift. B. Smith, Claire Roach, Gary Hannigan, Sarah Humble, and Shannon Michaela Dory Smith. And if you're watching this broadcast later as an archive, please keep commenting on what you watch here. I'll always keep returning to give answers. I'm getting comments from broadcasts from a year ago now, so I keep coming back. Subscribe the bell icons where you can subscribe and boing the bell, and that gets you notices of what's coming up, both on YouTube and I think Facebook's got bells now. So thank you very much, all being you. I'm still mesmerized by what you've sang, played, and it's just been quite spectacular, isn't it? So enjoy a safe week full of wonder, by the water, all those inspirations and enchantments. So until next Sunday, it's all from me. Bye-bye, everybody, and thank you very much.